Hi, howdy. Man, there's been a lot going on. A lot to ruminate over, a lot to talk about. If I were to pick a theme for discussion, it would have to be stability. What does it mean to stabilize my camera? What does it mean to stabilize yourself, to root yourself rock solid in your body, in your movement, in your actions, in your words, in your truth? That now I'm thinking about the difference between you and I, and why I say you instead of speaking from this stable point of myself, and how easy it is to separate. Stability can absolutely come from the absence of separation. And there are a lot of ways that people have found to separate themselves from other people. We are different. But, man, it can be extremely disheartening to see differences between us used as weapons against us. But I would liken that to a quote from the Buddha himself. Not to strictly relate this to anger, but he said that anger was the same thing as picking up a hot stone to throw at someone. I would say that separation is similar. That if I understood my history class, that there was almost this delayed reaction of the ways that people have separated themselves, building upon itself, until there was suddenly this influx of ways to solve disputes, conflict resolution, larger communities and gatherings. The invention of new methods to bridge gaps between people, to get along. Methods acting very similarly to varied perspectives, and how perspective adds to the human experience, how somebody else's perspective adds to your own perspective of yourself. That being said, these new generations that have been growing up in this information, misinformation, two sides of the same coin, motion, where I know from experience, I received a lot more perspective on a lot more important almost like the influx of things went up, and my ability to see that influx of things also went up. And with awareness of things, I think this is something that we're all learning together. With awareness of things comes the care and capacity to make change. That awareness can and often does lead to more awareness. What is this building towards? You. Me. Our takeaway. Separate from each other. Not from separation, but in the relation of our differences. In my lockjaw. In how we found unity and peace in our togetherness. It's not something that I've really ever had to seek out necessarily. It's more so something that found its way eventually, when I've let understanding exist in a space, when I've allowed it to exist in a space where I didn't push understanding of somebody away simply because I didn't have space for it. And that can be tricky because there is discernment with perspective, information, misinformation. There's discernment of what rings true, what resonates. And what resonates is absolutely dependent upon your own history, of your own understandings, and what has worked for you, what hasn't worked for you, and relating it to that. there's fallacy there in that while it is important to understand how something has affected you or I, that it is also necessary to have those conversations. I mean, the whole point of democracy is founded upon a very simple idea. If we take the word democracy away from whatever result or idea it is in people's minds, and we go back to its root, the essence of it, it's the capacity to hold a conversation with someone in agreeance and in disagreeance, and to still maintain that connection. It is the capacity to listen, to deeply listen in the face of something that may intercept something that we may believe or hold true. To sprinkle my own experience in the mix, something that I always practice is, even with something that completely contradicts my own understanding of the world, like my belief, and I'm gonna make this as unopinionated as possible. My belief, and my belief is not who I am. My belief is that the world is round. And one of the people that I get along with the most, somebody that understands me better than most people, believes that the world is flat. And we get along on everything. And we struck a balance in not what we disagree on, but what we do agree on. And I asked questions. What is your understanding of how the world is flat? How does that make sense to you? And then I shut up and I listened, because I wanted to understand someone else. Something that was completely outlandish to me, that when I did listen, I had my own interesting takeaways of how I understood the world, that his framework applied to mine. And somehow In that difference, when I listened, I built bridges where I didn't know bridges were to be built. My belief hasn't changed, but my understanding of this other person has deepened. Value. What is valuable to you? What is valuable to you? Is it changing? Are you allowing it to change? Are you listening to the exponential movement of the world and reacting by listening? Oh, wait. I say that only because no thought came after that, which I think is funny. Listen to that silence, too. How many people are trying to fill in this gap of silence for content reasons? What I've noticed when I am perusing the internet is extremely refined content. Messages that have been edited and re-edited, maybe over the course of a day. Maybe this is a project that somebody's been working on for weeks. All things that people are passionate about. And yet, even though these video essays are extremely informative and extremely useful in me practicing listening, practicing my discernment of what is truth and what is real to me, however echo chambery that with this concept of content, things that are extremely digestible, that the more I found residency in myself, the more uncomfortable I felt. And I found this strange. But I realized that this hyper-refined content was replacing me thinking. And this is uniquely to me because of my capacity to listen, because of my practice of listening, because of how many videos I have watched, how it was my free time, that it was this realization that I let content consume my life in different ways. And as I basically detoxed what were the larger factors of that, as I reduced to having less stealing my attention, the more I realized how I gravitated to just videos, learning, as if I was seeking something to validate my existence, something that would treat me like I was there. Treat me like I was real. As if I couldn't give it to myself. And so, yeah, it did replace my thinking, my thoughts, my residency in myself. Almost like it just stole it from me. And I only reached that conclusion from the reduction, where there's a lot of noise polluting people's minds, whether that be generational, from how your family raised you, how you were raised in religion, by general education, school structures, bullies, friends who are still with us or who have passed. The ways that you've laughed, and the ways that you've cried, the shame that you felt in expressing those emotions around others because of the circumstances that you were raised in. Building you brick by brick. Pink Floyd had a song about that. But this is more instead of you just being a single brick in the wall, all of those experiences was more building a steady foundation for you to build a home, laying your groundwork. And in terms of skyscrapers, they needed to dig deeper, completely reworking how foundations are even built to build something sturdier. What if you were building yourself into a skyscraper? What if you were trying to dig deep so that you could build a foundation to build yourself into the skies, the stars, the heavens? Are you dreaming big enough? Or are you dreaming based upon the ways that you've lived and the ways that you've been told to live? And the narrow, crawl space of how somebody else has invited you to live. If you, yes you, were to live your life even just more of how you wanted, it doesn't have to be the destination of, oh, my life has to be this. Things that you can change. The way that you start your day, the way that you end your day, the ways that you set your boundaries, the ways you interact with your friends, the things that you learn, the ways that you engage with what you are passionate about, the ways that you care, the ways that you study, to learn more about how you can do it better. Maybe I'm just talking out of myself here. That is referring to a separate sentence. I could say talking out of my ass here. One and the same, as far as I'm concerned. I hope my experience of the world is something that you can relate to. But I hope my experience of the world, at the very least, is something that can provide perspective for your life, in the ways that you choose to live it. The only game that is being played in the world are the games that you play with yourself. This is the age of information and misinformation, meaning putting into question your own discernment. Ex omnibus dubitandum. Doubt everything. I forget who I'm quoting there. Don't sue me. I want to add to that doubt everything unfollowed. Doubt everything buried. Doubt everything that somebody else told you. Doubt everything that you have not researched yourself. Doubt everything but yourself. You can quote me on that. I hope. Maybe somebody stole it before me. I think it is terribly venomous to the self to deny introspection into the things that garner or provide a sense of curiosity. Doubt is an invitation to knead like dough. Whatever you believe. Beliefs are proving again and again and again to be unstable ground. The practice of deep listening in the face of doubt allows for truth to emerge even if it is incremental. That incremental truth allows for more truth to emerge. I'm not here to tell you who you are. And if anybody tells you who you are, without any good reason to believe them, without living in your shoes, I don't care who has been together for 10, 20, 50 years of marriage or partnership or whatever the hell terminology we can use nowadays looks like. I'm me and you're you, and my experience will always differ from yours. My job is not to understand you. My job is to provide you a space to understand yourself, to be the gardener that lays fertile ground for your harvest. I did not sow any seeds. I do not want to take any credit for the action that you take. I do want to take credit for the redirection. Because my ego needs something. Just kidding. Because relationships are complementary in the good, the bad, the elated, and the ugly. Something is being communicated. Are you listening? Can you hear the ways that you move? The motion of your breath, the motion of your thoughts, the motion of your body. And if you can't, then I would say maybe there is simply too much noise. That if you reduced the noise, you would certainly be able to hear yourself. Moving forwards, worry, stress, more complex emotions, looks like noise. Overlaying you. And paper always beats rock. A journalist once asked George Carlin, "Are you trying to make your audience think?" George Carlin said, No. I'm not trying to make them think. That's the kiss of death. I'm just trying to let them know I'm thinking." I mention this as a man who had a profound impact in people's lives, that all he did was embody the truth he found and knew it so well that he could tell it like a story at the drop of a dime to anyone. This is a new world, one where we are redefining culture, values, the actions that we take separately and together. This may just be part of the message. However, though it is not my choice. I would still love, 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 love. To see you in your entirety, rising above the noise to join me and others at this round table. One where ideas and ways that people express themselves are not weighed down by beliefs or opinions or anything else that needs to be said here, but equally holds just as much importance and just as much of a seat at the table as all other means of expression. I invite you to join me in whatever other videos I make as I push for like-minded individuals to make that happen. I hope to see you there.